congressman, a 10-term Democratic incumbent. She becomes the latest young, perhaps more diverse candidate to advance in the November elections. Joining us now is CNN political director David Chalian. David, thanks so much for being with us. In this case, the left, right, middle labels, I don't think apply as much. What's so important about this race is you see where a female candidate, a minority candidate, is pushing out a long-term white incumbent here. And I think it tells us something about where the energy is in the Democratic Party.
Right. This is much more about style and representation than it is about a policy difference. Capuano, as you know, John, is one of the most liberal members, not just of the Massachusetts delegation, but of Congress. Medicare for all. This was not an ideological battle. This was a minority-majority district, and Ayanna Pressley was making the case that this district should have someone that looks more like the district. As you noted, the Democratic Party is becoming more diverse, more female, less white male-oriented, and this is the result of that. So I do think we are seeing a sea change inside the Democratic Party, certainly to the left ideologically, but also more diverse.
I want to know what this means, not in September of 2018, but in November of 2018. And also, David, as we look to 2020 and the primaries there.
Well, there's no doubt about that. So let me just answer the last part first. I think, it becomes much more likely as you look at these results. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in New York back in June. Ayanna Pressley here. What we saw with Stacey Abrams and Andrew Gillum, the Democratic gubernatorial nominees in Georgia and Florida. This is a party that seems more poised and open to nominating somebody more from the left inside the party and a more diverse non-white male person in the party. So if you're a white male centrist running in the 2020 Democratic nomination race, you may need not apply in the current Democratic Party in the way that the electorate is responding. But to your point about November, and I think this is a huge an important point, John, for us to think about. We don't know, of course, is the answer, but is the party moving too far left that they're making a general election trickier for them? That's not the case, obviously, in Massachusetts. There's no Republican opponent. She's going to Congress, Ayanna Pressley. But in general for the party, are they moving too far left for a November general election? I think we have to be open to the idea that that may be an older way of thinking, and we don't know that to be true. I remember a lot of people, John, in 2015 thought, my God, if you have a candidate for president who's calling for a border wall and a Muslim ban, there's no way that they might get through a Republican primary, but there's no way they're going to get elected in the fall. I'm not sure that those rules still apply.
Yeah, we just don't know. If you look at Florida right now, Andrew Gillum, the Democrat there, neck and neck, but maybe with a slight edge over Ron DeSantis in the general election there. But we'll see. We will learn a lot this November. David Chalian, great to have you with us. Thanks so much.
John.
All right, what do White House insiders think of Bob Woodward's explosive? The top aide is reportedly trying to protect the country from the president. So joining us now is Mark Short, President Trump's former White House Legislative Affairs Director and now a CNN political commentator. Good morning, Mark.
Allison, good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Let's just dive into the details of this book. It seems to suggest the president's top aides, of which you were one, often feel the need to protect the president from relevant information that may cause some sort of reaction from him, and to protect him, I should say, to protect the country from him. Did you ever feel the need to keep important information from him?
No, I never felt the need to protect the country from him. He's duly elected president of the United States by 63 million voters who knew exactly what they were doing. This president was able to, I think, mow through perhaps the most talented field Republicans ever put forward for a presidential nomination.
Yeah.
The American people wanted something different. He manages in a different style, but it's our job to give him the right information and let him make the decisions. And that's always the way I viewed my job. I could come in and give a recommendation that he may ignore or may accept, but never did I view it as my job to protect information or to not share information with the president that would help him make the best decision possible.
Okay, so let's talk about how Gary Cohn reportedly did feel that way. Gary Cohn reportedly stole an important letter off President Trump's desk that would have withdrawn the U.S. from a critical trade deal and threatened national security. So Gary Cohn took it before the president could see it. Gary Cohn is quoted as saying, "I stole it off his desk. I wouldn't let him see it. He's never going to see that document. Got to protect the country." Did you know that Gary Cohn had stolen an important
No,
document?
I don't know that he did. I know the reporting in that book, but I do think sometimes there's a tendency for former staff to want to appear more important than they were, and so there's notions of trying to exaggerate what happened and to say, here I was protecting the country. But I haven't talked to Gary since the book has come out,
Yeah.
and I don't know if that's he's standing by that or if
He's not
refuting it.
denied it. So there's been denials from the White House. Gary Cohn is not one of them. He's not denied it or refuted it.
Either way, I'm not familiar with Gary ever taking a document off the president's desk or anybody else taking it off to shield.
But
them from
are you
information.
suggesting that Gary Cohn is lying?
No, Allison, I'm not throwing out accusations here. I am saying I do not know of any documents that were taken off the president's desk to shield him from information.
That's fair. I'm just saying that Gary Cohn seems to be standing by this. So are you suggesting that Gary
I think
Cohn
that
is lying?
there's a series of books, from Fire and Fury to Omarosa's book to this book now, where I think there are disgruntled former staff who do have an interest to say, here's was the role that I played when I was there. And as I said, I'm not familiar that anything of that ever surfaced when I was in the White House, or people saying, hey, here's something that I did.
Yeah.
So no, I'm not familiar with that account at all.
But are you saying that Gary Cohn and Rob Porter, who also has not denied what's in the book, that they are doing this because they're disgruntled?
I'm simply saying that I think our job as staff is to provide the best information possible to the duly elected president of the United States.
I understand that that's what you did. I get it, and I hear you. But are you saying that they are disgruntled and that they are in that,
I'm saying
for that
that
reason,
there's-
fabricating things to Bob Woodward?
No, I'm not saying they're fabricating. I'm saying there's been a series of books out from disgruntled former employees who I think want to portray something that sometimes isn't reality. I think that this president operates in a different way. I don't think there's any doubt about that, Allison, and he has a different operation structure.
Mm-hmm.
But I think somewhere where the narrative is that it's a chaos and there's dysfunction, and it has to reconcile with the fact that you have a 4.2% GDP. You have the lowest unemployment rate in
Understood.
years.
I understand
Now,
all
hold on a
those
second. You have-
accomplishments. But I mean, I'm
but
just
you
saying
don't.
that.
But you don't, Allison,
because here,
because
hold on one second. I just want to focus on one thing that you just said.
I know
You're
you don't
putting
want to focus
Bob-
on the accomplishments.
You're putting Bob Woodward in the same category as Omarosa.
I'm saying there's been a series of books. And I don't think there's any denial of that,
Is
right?
Bob
There's been a fire-
Woodward's book in a different category?
I think that Bob Woodward is an acclaimed author. I don't think there's any doubt about that, Allison.
And journalist.
But I also think that there is a series of stories coming out that say, here's a chaotic White House, and there's a lot of discussion about the process. And in fact, when you have 99% of ISIS's territory that's been reclaimed, record number of regulations have been repealed, it's another Supreme Court justice that's about to be confirmed, unemployment at record lows, taxes that have been reduced, and the economy growing
Are
at a
you
record rate.
saying that
there
all
has
of
to
the
be a
con-
reconciliation.
that the-
Say,
I
hey, maybe
understand.
this is working okay.
Okay, so the end justifies the means. To
No,
you.
no, the end does not justify the means. But perhaps there's a different process that people in this town are not used to seeing. This is a president who is a non-traditional president. He does things a different way. That does not mean the end justifies the means,
Okay.
but I think there has to be reconciliation when there's all these stories about the chaos without saying, hey, actually, there's significant accomplishments as well.
I hear you, and you've made that point, but it's not just chaos. It sounds like there are people inside the White House very close to the president who were truly worried, who have anxiety about the president's impulses and what it could mean for the country. The staff secretary, Rob Porter, whom you worked with, stole or hid documents, according to the quotes in this book, from the president's desk on multiple occasions to protect national security. Here's the quote from Rob Porter. "A third of my job was trying to react to some of the really dangerous ideas that he had and try to give him reasons to believe that maybe they weren't such good ideas." Are you saying Rob Porter is not telling the truth?
I don't know that firsthand, Allison, but last hour you had a great segment with you and David, which you're talking about the South Korea element in this story. And I think there's an important detail there. This president does have a way of putting out a position that's out here, it's an outlier, and having his staff argue out that position. So he might say, why are our troops still in South Korea? When they have a trade imbalance? Why are we protecting them when they aren't helping us out?
Yeah.
And it forces his staff to come and say, here's why we've been there since the Korean War. Here's the benefit to the United States.
Yes.
And it gets us to a good position.
I think that would look, ideally, that makes perfect sense, the Socratic method of asking questions, but it doesn't sound like the people closest to the president think that's what's happening. Here's what John Kelly has said, quote, "He's an idiot. it's pointless to try to convince him of anything. He's gone off the rails. We're in crazy town. I don't even know why any of us are here. This is the worst job I've ever had. This is not what you're describing, Mark, of just a president who's knowledgeable and informed asking questions.
No, what I'm saying is he puts out a position, has the staff argue out the position, and that's the way often he gets informed of a decision. There's no doubt that John Kelly has an incredibly difficult job. I think we would all acknowledge that. And I know he's been frustrated many times.